Sri Lankan Prime Minister requests India for a 3-year moratorium on loans. UNP alleges that vehicles worth 7 billion rupees were purchased during Mahinda Rajapaksa's reign. Will Parliament be dissolved before the 2nd of March? Attempts to obtain a permit for the stone quarry in Vallapane that claimed the lives of 3. World oil prices closed lower this week to suffer a 5th weekly loss.
A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to Primetime News coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I am Arundhati Mudanayaka. Let's take a look at the stories in detail now. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says that he has requested the Indian government for a 3-year moratorium on Sri Lanka's repayment of its loans. The Prime Minister had made these remarks during an interview given to the Hindu newspaper.
In his interview, the Prime Minister had said that if the Indian government agrees to the request, countries like China too would follow suit. Rajapaksa had also been questioned on Sri Lanka's repayment of loans worth $5 billion, which is the highest repayment amount for any year in the country's history. In response, the visiting Prime Minister had noted that the country will manage the situation and not shirk its responsibility on loan repayments. The Hindu newspaper had also raised questions on the Memorandum of Understanding signed between Sri Lanka and India in 2017. The Prime Minister had said that talks were not held with the Indian government on the Trincomalee port and that discussions had only been based on the LNG terminal in the eastern terminal of the Colombo port, in which India and Japan are joint investors. Prime Minister Rajapaksa had pointed out that the former government had not pursued the agreements which had been signed under their administration in 2017. He had stated that the then President Maithripala Sirisena had opposed all agreements that had been signed by former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Rajapaksa had stressed that he will not bear the responsibility for such projects and that the Matala Airport project has also been removed. He had also emphasized that the government has a firm policy of not allowing national resources to be given to foreign control. In response to a question on the security cooperation between both countries, the Prime Minister had noted that the government has decided to increase intelligence sharing and obtain technical assistance and training from India. Commenting on the steps which have been taken to resolve the problems of the Tamil people, Rajapaksa had stated that the people in the northern province had been given an opportunity to elect their own chief minister after the war ended in 2009. He had said that the 2009 elections had been conducted while knowing that he would be defeated and that nothing had moved forward after the polls. He had noted that the government expects to conduct the general election in April this year, following which he said that the provincial council polls will be held.
Taking a look at a developing story this evening, views were expressed in the political arena over the purchase of vehicles worth 2.8 billion rupees for politicians.
3 billion rupees had been spent to purchase vehicles for the president's team alone from 2005 to 2015. Although Johnston Fernando remembers the purchases made between 2015 and 2020, he seems to have forgotten the purchases that were made between 2005 and 2010. All these vehicles could be sold and that money could be pumped into the treasury. However, they make these remarks while continuing to use these vehicles.
During the
government of Mahinda Rajapaksa in 2010, vehicles had been purchased for 72.2 billion rupees. Johnston Fernando has forgotten about that. After his name was told, he denies obtaining vehicles. Then for whom were these vehicles purchased? Who used these vehicles between 2015 to 2019? Under whose names were they registered? I think Johnston Fernando can reveal these details during the next parliamentary session. Vehicles are not procured out of personal expenses for ministers. If there was a shortage of vehicles for the ministry, purchases would have been made based on the requirements. The ministers may have used those vehicles. However, it is regrettable that Johnston Fernando has forgotten that these vehicles are now being used by the current ministers and state ministers, including himself. I came across a vehicle brought down by SP Disanayaka. Towards the latter part of the then government's rule, someone else was using the vehicle. We have not taken these vehicles for our domestic purposes. These are useless matters which are being discussed. Are these vehicles gold-plated to be purchased at such rates? I would love to sit inside such vehicles and see as to whether it feels like paradise. However, it is those who came into power by promising to provide people proper lives and stop bribery and corruption who have committed such acts. This is extremely dangerous. At school, we were taught how to draw a check mark for the right answer and a cross for the wrong one. So we follow what we have been taught at school. We draw a cross on the ballot paper. For whom do we vote? It is for those whom we dislike. So what does the chairman of the National Elections Commission do? He sends those who have the most number of crosses to the parliament.
The JVP has demanded for an investigation into 4 bank accounts believed to have benefited through commissions from the Sri Lankan Airlines Airbus refleet deal.
Money was transferred from a Singaporean bank account owned by Kapila Chandrasena's wife to Kapila Chandrasena's account in Australia. This money was retransferred to a few bank accounts in Sri Lanka. For whom did Kapila Chandrasena send this money? It is for those who know about this corrupt deal. Who were the powerful individuals who ensured that the money was transferred? It was the former chairman of Sri Lankan Airlines who was functioning above Kapila Chandrasena, while the money solicited by him in 2013 and 2014 were sent to Sri Lankan bank accounts in the same time period. It was those in the Rajapaksa family and their relatives who benefited through this money. We wish to urge the Attorney General's Department and the public to exert pressure on this. This is because around 150 billion rupees had been spent as the Airbus deal to purchase the aircrafts had not been pursued. This money was paid as cancellation fees. Don't we have a need to recover the money which we spent for this? When Vasudeva Nanayakkara raised this matter during a cabinet meeting in 2013, Mahinda Rajapaksa, who headed the cabinet at the time, had said that cabinet approval was not needed for such matters. The executive committee had met to discuss this serious deal at the former speaker's residence. Kapila Chandrasena, who was serving as the chief executive officer of Sri Lankan Airlines, had also functioned as a director at Telecom. There is a circular in the finance ministry stating that an individual cannot hold 2 state positions at the same time. This is a deal which had taken place under the aegis of this government. Therefore, we request the President to appoint a presidential commission and probe the matter. Instead of blaming only Kapila Chandrasena and his wife, the politicians who had abated in this deal should also be brought before the law. Sri Lankan Airlines had purchased 16 aircrafts under the previous government. When the aircrafts had been purchased, special cabins were procured for VIPs, costing millions of dollars. We need to listen to what Johnston Fernando has to say. He does not have the right to comment on this matter, as he belonged to the government that attempted to waste public funds by importing separate cabins for VIPs, while the loss-making airline had procured 16 aircrafts at that time.
Now, will the parliament be dissolved before the 2nd of March? Even today, many politicians express their views on the matter.
The way I see it, a vote is needed to dissolve the parliament as per the constitution. 6 months after a parliamentary election, if all parliamentarians want to do so, they can dissolve parliament and go to the general election with a 2/3 majority. But even now, if they want, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, TNA and JVP MPs can do this. If there is a 2/3 majority in parliament, it can be dissolved. There are various proposals. We have not decided on them yet. Each party talks. We have not yet made such a decision. We must make an independent decision. We are speaking today on the 9th of February. If this happens, this parliament will be in operation for 20 days. At most, it would be around 20 to 21. You can bring it before that as well. We will have to face the general election before the 24th of April. We only have a deal with the people. We have a contract with the people. So at a time when we are speaking about a two-thirds majority, we are ready to give the support of a two-thirds majority in parliament. But this support will not be given for political deals or personal agendas, not for the protection of 2 or 3 people. We will not enter into any agreements or deals for the benefit of a select few. They speak about a two-thirds majority everywhere. The government is now saying that they need a two-thirds majority to implement the policies they presented at the presidential election. Another group is saying, give us two-thirds majority and hold the election. Look at the similarities between these two statements. The common feature is, priority is given to their own well-being. They are not concerned about the well-being of the country. A two-thirds majority of parliament is needed for such an election. There are only 3 more days in parliament. Parliament will convene on the 18th, 19th and the 20th. After that, there is no time for this. I don't think that there is time. After 4.5 years, the President has the power to dissolve Parliament. If they want to dissolve Parliament, it can be dissolved after the 1st or 2nd of March. Then if there is an election can be held any day after the 22nd of April. That decision will not be made by the President or the Prime Minister. That decision will be made by the Elections Commission.
The Presidential Commission probing the April 21st attacks convened today.
Mohammad Razvi Mohammad Taslim, the coordinating secretary of former Minister Kabir Hashim, testified before the Presidential Commission today. He had supported the Criminal Investigations Department in its investigations into the vandalizations of statues in Mavanella and the recovery of explosives in Vanathavilluva. During the sighting, Mohammad Taslim had suspected that the groups opposing his conduct had been involved in shooting him last year. While admitting to have supported the Jamaat-e-Islami movement, its purposeful activities, the witness said that the student wing on the movement had gone astray by misinterpreting the Quran. He had said that the uncertainty had developed between the Buddhist and Muslim communities as a result of religious division even among schools.
We now cross over to Newsfirst Chalma Ratnaik, who will bring us the latest on the coronavirus.
The coronavirus outbreak has been making the headlines of various countries for a number of weeks now since it was discovered in early January this year. And as a result, 811 is stated as the number of fatalities that have occurred as a result of the coronavirus outbreak. Now, to put the severity of this outbreak into context, the SARS virus, which occurred in 2003, claimed the lives of 774 people. But at present, so far, the coronavirus has already claimed 811 lives. The coronavirus has also been identified in 24 countries around the world, as you can see from behind me. And initially, the coronavirus outbreak was recorded from China, but by now, it has spread to a number of countries, including Cambodia, Australia, Thailand, Tibet, India, Nepal, and a solitary case being reported from Sri Lanka. The total number of affected patients from the coronavirus outbreak currently stands at 37,000. Now, since contrasting remarks are being said regarding the total number of infected patients, and the death toll as a result of the coronavirus, since there are many remarks and contrasting remarks are being said, Chinese officials have requested its citizens to remain tight-lipped regarding the number of cases and the number of fatalities which have occurred as a result of the coronavirus, and therefore Chinese citizens are refraining from speaking publicly regarding the coronavirus outbreak. Now, against such a backdrop, we are now joined by Newsfirst's special correspondent Yasasvi Lianarachi from China.
මේ පළාතේ ඉඳලා වූහාන් වලට
This region is around 14 kilometers away from Wuhan. The highest number of confirmed cases next to Wuhan has been reported from this area. We wear masks and gloves while going out.
මාස්ක් එක දාගෙන යන්නේ එරෙන්ඩ ග්ලව්ස් දාගෙන යන්නේ.
Now, the city of Wuhan, situated in the Hubei province of China, is said to be the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. Now, to give you a brief explanation of what the city of Wuhan is known for, the city of Wuhan in China is one of the major manufacturing cities in China, known mostly for manufacturing medicines and vehicle spare parts, and also employs a vast number of Chinese citizens within the city. Now, around 3,000 foreign students are currently pursuing their higher education across 1,500 universities that are situated in the city of Wuhan. Now, Sri Lanka's acting ambassador to China, K. Yogananthan, has been very vocal regarding the Sri Lankan students who are currently pursuing their higher education in the city of Wuhan and several other cities in China. We will now cross over for some of the details. K. Yogananthan, the Sri Lankan ambassador or the acting ambassador to China, has expressed regarding the coronavirus outbreak.
Sri Lanka Embassy in Beijing has made arrangements to send 120 students to Sri Lanka after the outbreak of the coronavirus. Today, we have a small group of students in Beijing or in China. They actually have not decided yet whether they have to go back to Sri Lanka or stay in China and continue their studies. We have advised them to take all the precautionary measures as advised by the local health authorities as well as the World Health Organization. However, if any Sri Lankan wish to go back to Sri Lanka, they can contact the embassy at any time, and if they contact the embassy, we will be able to help them to return back to Sri Lanka. At the same time, now we are showing our solidarity to the government of China and people of China, and the government of China has been making all the arrangements to overcome this challenge. At this challenging hour, we as Sri Lankan would like to express our solidarity.
How has the coronavirus outbreak affected our country? How has Sri Lanka been affected by the coronavirus outbreak? Now, as you may know, a few weeks ago, it was reported that a confirmed case of coronavirus was reported, and it was said to be contracted by a Chinese woman who had arrived in the country on a visit from the province of Hubei in China. And after she was diagnosed with the coronavirus, she was sent to the infectious disease hospital in Angoda, where she is said to be receiving treatment at present. Now, when Newsfirst inquired regarding the condition of Sri Lankan patients who are currently receiving treatment at various hospitals across the island, the National Institute of Infectious Diseases said that 15 such patients are currently receiving treatment at 5 different hospitals situated across the country. Now, that is the latest from here at home and across the globe regarding the coronavirus outbreak. But stay tuned to News First, as we will bring you more comprehensive updates as and when we receive them. Until now, it's back to the studio.
The Chinese Xinhua has reported that Sri Lankans have prayed for China's victory against the novel coronavirus epidemic.
The article read worshippers were invited by the Sri Lanka-China Buddhist Friendship Association to invoke blessings for the Chinese government and people who are fighting the coronavirus. It adds Sri Lankans have taken many other acts of solidarity with China and will take more in the coming days. According to Xinhua, another prayer ceremony is slated for February 15th in Anuradhapura. It is reported that on Wednesday, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, together with several cabinet ministers, lawmakers and Chinese embassy officials, prayed in the Abhiyaramaya temple in Colombo in solidarity with China.
Oil prices closed lower this week to suffer a fifth weekly loss in a row, mainly due to concerns over the global economy fed by the spread of the coronavirus.
For For the week, West Texas Intermediate crude saw a 2.4% weekly slump, while Brent posted a decline of 3.8%, according to Dow Jones market data. Both benchmarks tallied their fifth straight week of losses, the longest losing streak since November 2018. While commodity analysts have raised concerns about the downfall of oil prices, they are of the stance that the demand hit from the coronavirus may only be temporary. China's oil consumption, by some estimates, is off by a massive 3 million barrels per day. Meanwhile, over 54,011 airline flights scheduled to and from and within China between January 23rd and February 4th were cancelled, creating a ripple effect for global oil demand. Earlier this week, reports emerged that China's oil demand amid the coronavirus outbreak is likely inflicting the worst oil demand shock to markets since the financial crisis of 2008-2009.
The government has decided to increase the age limit for unemployed graduates eligible to apply for the state sector to 45 years. The previous age limit was 35 years. According to a statement issued by the Presidential Media Unit, the decision was taken at the request of graduates and public organizations. Moving on, forest fires are widely reported these days. 2 such incidents were reported yesterday. A fire broke out at the Singimale Forest Reserve last night. According to our correspondent, about 25 acres have been destroyed in the fire. The cause is yet to be ascertained. The Hatton Fire Brigade has been able to douse the fire. Meanwhile, our correspondent stated that a number of fires have been reported in the Rambukkana and Alagalla mountain areas. Around 10 acres have been burnt by the fire. Residents say that this type of fires are frequent in the area. The fire has been doused with the help of police, army and navy personnel and residents in the area. Forest destruction due to fires has become a serious problem in some regions in Sri Lanka, especially in areas like Beragala, Haputale or the Badulla district. According to the Disaster Management Centre, Sri Lanka experiences nearly 50 to 200 cases of forest fires each year. 673 forest fires were reported during the time between 2016 to 2019. According to the Department of Forest Conservation, 5,619 hectares of land have been destroyed due to the fire.
To prevent forest fires, many countries in the world use precautionary principles. A number of measures are being taken to prevent the spread of fires, mainly through community involvement and various technical strategies to prevent fire. It is particularly important to take measures to eradicate these forest fires through a coordinated process within the community and the state apparatus. But the problem in Sri Lanka is that the allocation of funds and the preparation mechanism is not done properly.
The indigenous community in Ratugala say that residents of 7 villages could be given employment if a canal is cut to supply water from the Kirioru River. The Kirioru River is expected to have a capacity of supplying water across 200 acres of paddy fields. However, due to the absence of a canal to transport water from the river to the fields, cultivation takes place only across 15 acres of agricultural land. In 2003, the river had been restructured and widened up to 40 acres. However, the bund of the river has now been damaged.
The officials are not concerned about this and do not arrive to inspect the situation. They should look into this matter and create a canal in a way that is beneficial to the people. This would not happen if there are paddy tracts. The government approved the funds during Mahinda Rajapaksa's regime. However, lower level officials abused the money.
If the river is clean, 500 families residing in 7 villages will be able to engage in employment to earn a living.
Farmers can cultivate across lands spanning between 200 to 250 acres if the river is cleaned properly.
There are rocks in the Kirioru River through which the water flows. If this problem is resolved, the people of Ratugala in Galgamua are ready to supply rice to the country. One can consider the operations undertaken by the police special task force to tackle criminal activities in the country to be remarkable. A large-scale illegal excavation of treasures was raided by the police STF, proving themselves remarkable once again.
Based on a tip-off, 12 suspects were arrested by the police engaging in illegal excavation for treasure in the Dharmapuram area in the Kilinochchi district. State-of-the-art equipment used for excavations and a vehicle was taken into custody by the police. Among the equipment seized by the police was a scanner used to detect objects below the ground. The suspects were handed over to the Dharmapuram police for further investigations. 3 military personnel and an army colonel were among those arrested.
On to one of our headline-making stories. It is reported that a Chinese company has filed an appeal to resume operations of a stone quarry in Valapane, Malapattava, where 3 people were killed and a child went missing during a landslide recently. According to our correspondent, the Minister of Environment has informed area residents in writing to submit objections if there are any.
The letter sent by the Ministry of Environment to area residents was dated January 29th. Although the ministry informed the residents to file objections within 10 days, the letter was in fact posted on the 5th of February, and the area residents had received the letters only on the 7th of February. Thereby, the area residents effectively had only 1 day to file objections. It is even more surprising that the letter was only received by residents of a certain section of that village.
The 10 days are over. We didn't have time to send a reply. We are not sure whether they planned this delay.
මේ පුපුරලා බහලා තියෙන අඩි 7ක් විතර පල්ලෙහාට බහලා තියෙන්නේ. අපිත් ඔක්කොම ඉවර ආයෙත් මිනි එක්කහුව කරන්න තමයි රජයට එක්කහුව වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. මම නම් පැහැදිලිව කියනවා සියලුම රාජ්‍ය නිලධාරීන් මෙතනින් අරන් තියෙනවා පගාව. කන්ද මේ උඩිමු පුපුරලා තියෙන්නේ අරක.
My name is also included there in the list of those who were sent the letters. However, I have not received such a letter. When the landslides were happening, we were taken to the temple and dumped there. Now it is the dry season and we were asked to go back to our houses. So we came back to our houses and now the quarry is going to start again. A controversy surrounding the granting of a permit for the stone quarry in Valapane, Malapattava arose after 3 people were killed and 1 child was reported missing in a landslide that occurred in the area. The quarry started in 2005. It was carried out by Mr. Samarakon, an uncle of Minister C.B. Ratnayaka. A landslide was reported in 2007 close to the quarry, and it was suspected that the operations of the quarry was the cause of the landslide. Then the quarry closed down. The quarry reopened in 2011. I raised the question in the council as to how it reopened in 2012 after being closed down in 2005 for the lack of safety. I was told that the stones were necessary for development of the area and that it was done on the request of Minister C.B. Ratnayaka. That letter was in the council. The massive public outcry against the operations of the stone quarry prompted the governor to intervene and halt the operations. It is also surprising that the area residents were asked to file their objections against such a backdrop. The National Building Research Organization designated this location as a high-risk zone following a research that was conducted in 2007. However, the National Building Research Organization had later given permission for the operations of the stone quarry and issued a report stating that there is no risk of landslides in the area. Thereby, this report issued by the National Building Research Organization in August last year has been proven to be a ruse after a landslide occurred in the area in November last year. Therefore, the manner in which this Chinese company obtained the relevant reports from state institutions for obtaining a permit for the operations of the stone quarry should also be looked into.
It was my older brother who died in the accident. Now they are trying to restart the operations of this stone quarry. I only request for justice to be done. It has been 3 months since the incident. We have the alms giving on the 28th and 29th. There has been no justice yet.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.